All right, hello again, independent living students, for the job interview presentation lecture. Now, the job interview is just one portion of trying to obtain an occupation or a job of your choosing, but in some instances, most instances, it is considered the most important step in the job hunting process. So let's take a look at some of the specifics when it comes to job interviews so that hopefully you don't make mistakes that could cost you getting that perfect job. All right, what I have included here is a resource. And in your notebook, just note a little bit as to what is this person doing wrong. What we are going to actually do is we are going to be doing this particular activity in class, and we are going to take a look at what this person is doing wrong and see if we can determine what this person could do better in order to give a better impression at the job interview. Okay, in this video here, this video here is going to be the do's and don'ts. It's a short little resource video. I will have this posted in Classroom, as well as we will take a look at this in class as well and determine from a video standpoint what you should be doing and what you should not be doing in the job interview process. All right, so with all of that being said, we'll take a look at that in class. Now let's take a look at exactly what you should be aware of when going into that first job interview. First impression. Obviously, the first impression is going to speak 1,000 words and go a long way to whether or not you are going to be a serious candidate for this position. So the first impression is very important. So how can you establish a good first impression? Well, the first thing is you want to dress accordingly. So what you want to do is dress formally. Suit, dress pants, skirt. Okay, make sure that you are comfortable, not just in matter of being there for the interview itself, but also the way that you dress. So make sure that your clothes are fitting the way that they're supposed to, so that you're comfortable, so that you're not sitting in the chair and squirming and you look nervous and you look anxious, and you really aren't, but you're just uncomfortable because of what you're wearing. Pay attention to your personal grooming and cleanliness. Obviously, you want to be clean. You don't want to smell bad and give off a bad impression. Forget to put deodorant on, something like that, which could turn off your interviewers if you are not properly groomed. Some of the things you don't want to do, obviously you don't want to wear blue jeans. You want to stay away from t-shirts, clothes with holes. Don't wear athletic wear. Again, going back to the formal dress, keep away and be very, very conservative in terms of revealing anything, and obviously anything that would be considered unprofessional. And it doesn't matter what position you are applying for. You want to dress appropriate. You want to dress formal, whether or not you're applying for an entry-level position or a managerial position. Once you come into the interview, there's a proper way to greet your interviewer. You want to start with a handshake. And when it comes to the handshake, you want to have a strong, firm handshake and use eye contact. While the handshake is going on, you want to state your name. Say it clearly. Make sure that they spell it correctly if they repeat it back to you or if they are writing it down as part of their notes. Okay, so you want to do that in order to give yourself a proper introduction into the interview. Then when it comes to the employer's names, more often than not, the employers or the interviewers will introduce themselves, but if not, then please just ask them politely so that you are aware of the individuals who are interviewing you and that you can address them personally if they were to ask you any particular questions. Remember their names and address them accordingly. Maybe not use first names, maybe use a prefix and a last name, Mr. Jones, Miss Carter, something of that nature. Posture says a lot as well about your first impression. Okay, obviously what you want to do is you want to sit up straight, you want to be attentive. If you are the person on the right where you are slouched and you are looking on your device, you'd look disinterested in the position and you give the impression that you would rather be somebody else. So you want to sit tall and proud. Do not slouch, do not slump. Find a comfortable position that is comfortable for you, and adjust as the interview goes on. But you definitely do want to have a good posture during the course of the interview. All right, when it comes to attitude and expectations, this is what the interviewer is going to look for in terms of first impressions. They're looking for somebody who's going to arrive early, at least 10 minutes prior. So make sure that you plan accordingly so that you can get there, avoiding construction and taking into consideration possible weather. Practice your interview questions ahead of time. There are a number of resources out there online where you can find interview questions that are normally asked at almost every interview. So you can practice having them asked to you and your response. Be excited but calm. Smile. Use eye contact. You want to look excited and enthused to be in this interview. And if you are, you will be taken serious as a candidate. Be confident. Obviously, you yourself, you want to be confident in your own abilities, and your ability to be able to show that to somebody is very important in the interview process as well. So in order to be confident, you want to speak clearly. You want to make sure you speak in a positive tone. You don't want to sound like a negative individual. That will definitely turn an interviewer off. And you want to sell yourself. Remember, that's what you're doing, is you are marketing yourself to an employer and you're giving an audition to be their next employee. So do you want your interviewer to look at you as their next employee? Then this portion of the interview is going to be very, very important. Again, continuing to show that you are interested, you want to listen to questions carefully and take time to respond. Make sure that you respond to them clearly, in detail, and answer any follow-up questions that might come from your interviewers. If need be, restate the question and then answer, backing up your statements about yourself with specific examples if possible. So if the question is being asked that you have addressed in a place of employment or a life experience in the past, give an example of how that applies in your response to the question. Be thorough and concise with your answers, which means do not be general. Do not give short answers. Do not give answers that might indicate to the interviewer, there should be more to this answer and I can't quite understand why I'm not receiving it. So be thorough, be concise. And it doesn't ever hurt either to ask back to the interviewer who just asked the question if you were able to answer the question to their satisfaction. And always, always, always be honest. Do not lie about any information on your application, your resume, or in regards to any questions you are being asked in the interview. Okay, so when it comes to the information portion, which may be referenced in the job interview, but it may not, you may have to reference back to the job application or the resume. As you can see next in the graphic here, next you can see that there is an example of a resume and the different portions of it. So it indicates the name, the contact information, your objective as a potential employee, your experience in education, as well as your honors and activities. Just in case your interviewers do not have a copy, it is always important to bring a copy with you. Just in case one of the interviewers asks for it, you can provide that for them so they can reference it while they go through the interview process. Be prepared to show it because it might be asked for or there might be individuals who don't have it. Be prepared to elaborate and explain on any part of your resume if asked in the interview. Some interviewers may ask for elaboration on some of your honors and activities, your experience, even your education. Now, at the end of the interview, chances are you're going to have an opportunity to answer questions as well as ask questions. So when it comes to answering the questions asked by your interviewer, take a moment to think about your response. Don't just blurt out an answer. If you do not understand the question, ask them politely to rephrase, or ask a clarifying question to make sure that you answer their question as asked. Make sure that you answer the whole question thoroughly. Do not leave any parts out. Do not leave any parts open for interpretation. Take your time. There's no need to rush your answers. The interview process is going to take as long as it takes, normally half an hour to 45 minutes. So take your time to make sure that you answer the questions as asked. And make sure that you are preparing a quality response as well. Again, same thing, going back to what we talked about earlier. Do not give short phrased answers. Make sure that you are thorough and complete answering questions that were asked. Now comes the portion where you get a chance to ask questions back to the interviewer. During the course of the interview, Were any questions that you might have had coming into this interview answered? If not, it's your turn to ask. You need to think about what information you would like to know at the end of this interview. Bring several questions to the interview with you. What might you want to ask of the organization? Because remember, not only are you trying to sell yourself to the organization, but the organization is also trying to sell itself to you as a possible place of employment. If they do not ask for questions from you, then politely ask if you can ask some questions at the conclusion of the interview. You might be looking for some questions that are specific to the organization, to the role that you're applying for, etc. And then at the end, when it comes to closing, you want to repeat the greeting at the closing of the interview. So again, you want to shake hands of all of the interviewers, thanking them for their time. You want to repeat your name if needed. Okay, it's always important that you say your name or reference your name as much as possible so that you don't get forgotten. Walk out with confidence. Stand up straight. Good posture as you exit the interview room. You want to leave a lasting impression. When you walk out that room, you want that interview team to remember you as a candidate. And what is the last thing that you want them to see? That's what you need to think about as you exit the interview room. Something, again, that might set you apart from the other candidates, that might give you the upper hand when it comes to filling this position as a potential employee. And that concludes the presentation lecture for the job interview process. Please make sure that you answer the embedded questions and mark as done in Classroom when completed. And we will be referencing some of the concepts that we talked about in this presentation lecture in class through guided practice analysis as well as independent practice. I will see you next time we meet in class.